أنا دكتور خالد وليد، ربان سفينة النجاة إلى شواطئ بكة القدس. I am Dr. Khaled Waleed, the captain of the ship of salvation to the shores of Baka, Jerusalem.
All right, strap in, everybody. Today we're going deep. Wisdom of good and evil. It's an excerpt from Dr. Khaled Waleed's work. And, you know, one of you listeners sent this in, wanted to get a handle on his take on basically why bad things happen. You know, if there's this supposed benevolent force at play.
It's a big question, right?
It is a huge question.
He jumps right in, though, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Angels questioning God.
Oh, yeah.
About putting a successor on earth.
It's like right out the gate.
Yeah, straight out of the Quran, verse 2.3.
Okay.
Where they're basically like, hold on. You sure about this? This new guy, he's going to wreak havoc.
Well, and that sets the tone for like, is humanity inherently flawed? You know? But then Waleed, he gets even bolder, I think.
Yeah.
Draws a parallel between the Pharaoh of Moses' time and pre-Adamic Israelites. It's like he's saying there's this blueprint for oppression.
Interesting.
That just, it keeps repeating.
Yeah, and he calls this pattern a malicious tree specifically. The Israelites, or at least some remnant of them, you know, left among humanity on purpose.
On purpose!
Yeah, as a test, he argues, to see who stays true to the path, despite, you know, facing injustice and all that.
I'll admit, I kind of stumbled on that part. Feels a little heavy, you know? To lay that blame
I get that.
on a specific group, especially given, you know,
especially
the whole Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
The complexities.
Not exactly a neutral take on history.
No, definitely not. And it is tough to grapple with those kind of claims.
Yeah.
Without getting into those the weeds of historical interpretations, you know.
Yeah.
Which can be really sensitive.
Oh, for sure.
But if we kind of zoom out for a sec, just step back from that specific group he mentions.
Okay.
What I find interesting, what resonates with me, is this idea of evil being a crucible. Like hardship, it refines faith. Right?
Yeah.
It shows who has true conviction. Plenty of traditions grapple with that.
Okay, yeah, that's a good point. All right, so then he lays out his discovery.
Yeah.
This 6-stage framework of good and evil. Curious, do you buy into this framework? Or does it feel, you know,
I mean,
overly simplistic?
I think frameworks can be helpful.
Okay.
For understanding these big complex ideas, right? It's like a map.
Okay.
Not the actual territory itself.
Okay.
So let's see where he takes us with this.
I'm ready.
Okay. So he starts with the good stuff, the 3 stages of good.
Yeah.
Now, first up is justice.
Justice. All right. Sounds pretty straightforward.
Sounds simple.
Yeah.
But he really digs in, though. It's not just courts and laws.
Oh.
It's woven into everything. Trade, personal debts, how governments treat people. It's
Wow. So it's like, are we fulfilling our obligations to each other? Like on every level? It makes you think about, you know, I don't know, times I've cut corners in my own life, you know, been less than fair. It makes you reflect.
It does.
Yeah.
And he really connects personal ethics to the health of society as a whole, you know,
right.
And even implies that lack of justice at the societal level, it creates this fertile ground for evil to take root.
That's a pretty big statement.
It is.
Yeah.
All right. So next up, we got benevolence.
Benevolence. Yeah. I initially thought, oh, easy.
Right. Charity, simple.
Check, done.
But he goes deeper.
Okay, yeah, how so?
It's about going beyond just obligation, right? It's about having this spirit of generosity that kind of uplifts everyone. So it's not just about giving money. It's about knowledge sharing, emotional support, the kind of stuff that binds communities together.
It's interesting how he emphasizes that mutual support, you know? It's like in this dog-eat-dog world, are we helping each other thrive or just looking out for number one?
And that's where it gets really interesting. He seems to be contrasting this ideal with more individualistic societies, right? Suggesting that when we prioritize the collective, the good of everyone, we push back against evil in a way. At least that's how I'm reading it.
That's intriguing. Okay, so wrapping up the good side, we've got
kindness to kin.
Kindness to kin. I mean, taking care of family, isn't that like kind of a no-brainer?
You'd think so.
Yeah.
But he elevates it, you know, beyond just basic duty.
Okay.
He says strong families They're the bedrock of a strong nation.
Okay.
It's like those concentric circles, kindness radiating outward, building a more stable society.
But I wonder if that's where some people would disagree with him. Like, what about folks who have toxic families or chosen families that are more supportive, than their blood relatives? Does his framework account for?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I'm not sure he addresses that directly.
Okay.
In this excerpt. Maybe he does somewhere else. But it does highlight the potential limitations of any framework, really.
Yeah.
Right? Life is rarely black and white.
True. Okay, so that's the good side of the equation. Ready to delve into his stages of evil.
Let's do it. And he uses specific Arabic terms here, which is interesting. It's like he's trying to convey like these very precise shades of meaning.
Gotcha.
So the first stage he calls immorality or usha.
Okay.
Think of it as stepping outside God's boundaries, into this gray area between right and wrong.
Between halal and haram, I guess.
Exactly. And he uses adultery as an example, which makes sense.
Right.
But I'm wondering if this stage is more about intent.
Okay.
Right. Like, is it about getting swept away by emotion or like deliberately choosing to break the rules?
A big difference.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
And that kind of leads into that next stage, which is reprehensible acts. Or
reprehensible acts.
Yeah, and this definitely points to a conscious decision to do wrong.
Yeah.
And he quotes the Quran here, saying they did not desist, emphasizing that deliberate, ongoing nature of the act.
Yeah.
It's not a slip up.
Right.
It's a pattern.
It's a pattern of behavior.
Exactly.
So one bad choice might be immorality, but repeatedly making that choice, knowing it's wrong, that's
when it gets reprehensible.
Reprehensible, yeah. And it speaks to this hardening of the heart, this turning away from what's right.
Yeah.
Which leads us to the final, most severe stage, transgression.
And here's where he brings in the Israelites again.
He does.
Right, linking transgression to their betrayal and turning away from humanity. I'm still kind of grappling with how he's using this historical parallel.
Yeah.
It feels loaded.
I get that. It definitely adds as a layer of complexity.
Mm-hmm. And maybe even controversy.
Yeah.
But if we put that aside for a minute, what stands out to me is the utter finality of this stage. Like, it's not just breaking the rules.
Right.
It's shattering the whole moral framework.
Oh, wow.
It's like there's no coming back from this one.
Okay, so we've got these 6 stages, 3 for good, 3 for evil. But how does all this connect back to that initial question?
Yeah.
About why evil exists in the first place? Does he give us an answer?
He doesn't offer like a simple solution.
Okay.
But I think he's laying the groundwork for deeper understanding.
Yeah.
By defining these stages, he's suggesting there's this progression, this path towards, either good or evil. Mm-hmm. And that path, it seems like it's paved with our choices.
So it's not about some external force dictating whether we're good or evil. It's about
us.
The choices we make. Yeah.
Every step of the way.
Every step.
That's pretty empowering if you think about it.
It is.
Yeah.
But it also implies a tremendous responsibility.
Okay.
If we have the power to choose, then we're also responsible for the consequences,
Phew, this is heavy stuff. I think we need to take a moment to digest all this before we move on. But before we do, I'm just curious, what stands out to you so far? What's resonating? What's challenging you? What questions are bubbling up for you? Okay, my brain it's doing like backflips after that.
Yeah.
Deep dive into those 6 stages.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
But he doesn't just leave us hanging with these categories, right? He talks about breaking free from these cycles of magic.
Right.
Which, I don't know, sounds kind of cryptic.
Yeah, that phrase definitely jumped out at me too.
Yeah.
And I don't think he means like literal magic,
Right, not like
waving wands, chanting spells.
Yeah.
It's more about the ways we can get trapped
in patterns of behavior that ultimately lead us away from what he considers the true path.
Yeah. So maybe it's like relying on rituals or external practices without really
without
engaging with that deeper meaning.
Without the substance,
Yeah, it's like going through the motions without
the heart.
Yeah, without really connecting with the spirit of it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that's something I think we can all relate to,
Right.
regardless of our specific beliefs, right? It's like we get so caught up in the how that we lose sight of the why.
Oh, totally. Like maybe we're donating to charity.
Right.
But doing it more for the social recognition
The appearance of it.
than out of genuine compassion,
Totally, yeah. Or following religious rules really strictly.
Yeah.
But without understanding those underlying principles.
I've definitely been guilty of that at times, I'll admit.
We all have, yeah. Yeah.
It's like checking off the boxes without really examining, your own heart.
Right.
And I wonder if that's what he means by magic. It's like this illusion of control.
Yeah, this belief that
if we just do all the right things, we'll get the desired outcome without actually doing the inner work.
Real work, yeah. And I think that ties back to his emphasis on justice.
Right.
And benevolence and kindness to kin. Those aren't just boxes to check off. They're ways of being in the world.
Right. It's about embodying those values in our everyday choices, not just performing certain actions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if that's how we break free from these cycles of magic, how do we actually do that? Like, it's not like
I know.
there's a step-by-step guidebook. There isn't. But I think he offers some clues. He talks about returning to God's true path, which suggests that we need to align our actions with a higher purpose.
Okay.
And maybe that starts with becoming aware of those patterns that keep us stuck.
So being mindful of those moments when we're more focused on appearances than authenticity, on manipulating outcomes.
Yeah, rather than cultivating genuine change. Exactly. And then maybe it's about asking ourselves, like, what would it look like to live these values more fully?
Right.
How can I bring more justice and benevolence and kindness into my interactions, even in those those small everyday moments?
Those are good questions, and I'm thinking maybe it also involves being more honest with ourselves about our motivations. Like, why am I doing this? Is it out of genuine care for others, or is it more about self-interest? That kind of self-reflection, it can be kind of uncomfortable.
It can.
It seems crucial.
It's where the real growth happens.
Yeah.
Both individually and collectively.
Right.
And maybe that's what he's ultimately pointing us toward, this path of continuous self-reflection and striving for a deeper connection.
Yeah.
With the divine, however we understand that.
That's a really powerful idea, but it also makes me wonder, are these cycles of magic, are they the only explanation for why evil persists?
Right.
Like, are there other ways to understand
of course
why bad things happen, why people make harmful choices?
Yes. I mean, this framework is just one perspective, right? There are many others out there.
Yeah.
I mean, throughout history, people have grappled with this problem of evil in countless ways.
I'm thinking about natural disasters, for example. They cause immense suffering, but it's not driven by human malice.
Right, not these cycles of magic.
Right, exactly.
That's a great example of what philosophers call natural evil.
Natural evil.
Yeah, the suffering that arises from the workings of the natural world, rather than human actions.
Right.
Things like earthquakes, hurricanes, diseases, all these things. They cause immense pain and destruction.
Yeah.
But it's not because some evil force is deliberately causing them.
Right. It's like recognizing that the universe isn't this perfectly designed system for human happiness,
Yeah.
That there are forces at play that are just beyond our control that sometimes just result in suffering. Okay, so that's one piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
But what about the evil that we as humans inflict on each other? How do different schools of thought explain that?
Well, one prominent theory is this idea of individual responsibility.
Okay.
This really emphasizes the role of free will and the capacity for humans to choose between good and evil. It's about recognizing that we have this power to make decisions.
Yeah.
And those decisions have consequences.
So from this perspective, evil isn't this external force. It's more a result of...
Yeah, it's the choices that individuals make.
It's about owning up.
Yeah, owning up.
To our actions.
Exactly.
And the impact.
And the impact they have on others.
Okay, that makes sense. But it also seems a bit limited, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Like, it doesn't fully account for the ways that our choices are...
Right, how they're shaped.
Shaped by the systems and the structures around us.
You're hitting on a crucial point.
Yeah.
And that's where theories of societal and systemic evil come into play. These perspectives argue that evil can be perpetuated by systems of oppression, inequality, injustice.
So it's not just about individual bad apples. It's about
the
barrel itself being rotten, so to speak.
That's a powerful analogy.
Yeah.
And this view really highlights the importance of addressing these systemic issues, right? Like poverty, discrimination,
lack of opportunity.
Yeah, lack of access to education and opportunity.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that individual choices are made within a context. And that context can have a profound impact on our behavior.
So it's not about letting individuals off the hook.
No, not at all.
It's about understanding that
it's about the interplay.
Complex interplay between personal responsibility and societal influences.
Absolutely. And then there's the psychological approach to understanding evil. This lens explores those inner workings of the human mind to try to shed light on the motivations.
Yeah, the motivation behind harmful behavior.
Exactly.
So looking at things like personality disorders, trauma,
influence of group dynamics, all these factors that might contribute to someone acting in evil ways.
Okay, yeah.
And this perspective can be really valuable because it reminds us that evil is often complex. It's multifaceted and rooted in these deeply personal experiences.
Yeah, right.
It helps us move beyond these simplistic notions of
like good versus evil.
Good guys and bad guys. Yeah.
Right.
And recognize the humanity in everyone, even those who commit terrible acts.
I appreciate that nuance, because it's easy to fall into black and white thinking.
Oversimplify it.
But real life is rarely that simple.
It really isn't.
And it seems like each of these perspectives, natural evil, individual responsibility, societal influences, psychology.
Yeah, they all offer
They all offer like a piece of the puzzle.
A
different way of understanding this complexity of good and evil.
They do. And I think it's important to hold all these perspectives in mind, even if they seem contradictory at times.
Right.
Because the reality is there's no single definitive answer.
Right.
To the question of why evil exists. It's a question that's challenged, philosophers and theologians
for centuries.
Yeah. And it will likely continue to challenge us for centuries to come.
It's a question that keeps us thinking, keeps us searching.
Keeps us striving.
Yeah. For a better world.
And that striving itself is incredibly valuable, isn't it?
Even if we never arrive at a final answer.
Right.
The process of grappling with these questions can deepen our understanding.
Right.
It can refine our moral compass and inspire us to act for good.
Right. And it brings us back to Waleed's call to action, his urging to break free from those cycles of magic and return to God's true path. But before we dive into the practical implications of his message and how we can actually apply his insights to our everyday lives, let's take a quick break.
Sounds good.
We'll be back in a moment.
All right.
To continue our exploration.
Okay, we're back. And I'm still kind of wrestling with this idea of breaking free from those cycles of magic like Waleed talks about. It sounds, great in theory, but how do we actually...
It's one thing to talk about it, but...
Yeah, how do we
live it?
Yeah, especially, in our everyday lives where it's so easy to get caught up in the routine and lose sight of that bigger picture.
It is a challenge. I think the key is connecting Waleed's framework
Okay.
to those everyday choices that we make.
Yeah.
Remember those 3 stages of good he outlines? Justice, benevolence, kindness to kin.
Right.
Those aren't just like these lofty ideals. They're actionable principles
Right.
that we can strive to embody, you know?
Okay, I'm with you on that. But let's get specific. How do we actually implement those principles in a way that feels meaningful?
In a way that feels real.
Yeah, not just like, I don't know, checking boxes.
Yeah, not just going through the motions.
On some moral to-do list.
Right, exactly. Well, let's take justice, for example.
Okay.
He talks about, fulfilling our obligations, giving everyone their due.
Right.
In a practical sense, that can mean being honest in our business dealings, even when it's,
Yeah, even when it's tempting.
tempting to cut corners.
To cut corners.
Or it could mean advocating for fair treatment of workers, speaking out against discrimination,
Yeah.
supporting policies that promote equity and opportunity for all.
So it's about aligning our actions with our values, even when it's difficult or inconvenient.
Even when it's hard, yeah.
Like I try to be mindful of where I shop,
Right, yeah.
making sure I'm supporting businesses that treat their employees ethically.
Right.
But honestly, sometimes it's just easier to
just grab.
to grab whatever's cheapest.
Whatever's convenient. It's a constant struggle.
It is.
But I think that's exactly what Wavely's challenging us to do,
Okay.
to be more intentional about our choices, to pause and just ask ourselves, am I acting in a way that reflects my values, even in those small everyday moments?
That's a good reminder.
Yeah.
And it applies to benevolence as well, right? It's not enough to just donate money to a cause.
It's not just writing a check.
Yeah, true benevolence, it requires empathy, understanding, a willingness to engage with the needs of others.
In a real way.
In a meaningful way.
Yeah.
Like actually volunteering our time, mentoring someone, or just,
showing up for a friend.
Yeah, showing up for a friend who's going through a tough time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think Waleed would emphasize that true benevolence goes beyond just addressing those immediate needs, right? It's about contributing to a society where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Right.
It's about creating a culture of mutual support where we're not just looking out for ourselves,
right? Yeah.
but also lifting each other up.
Yeah, I love that. It's not just about fixing problems. It's about
building.
Yeah, building something better together. Okay, so we talked about justice, benevolence. What about kindness to kin? That one, I don't know. That one seems
the most
most straightforward.
Straightforward, right?
But I guess even taking care of our loved ones,
even that
could become a cycle of magic if we're not careful.
It definitely can. Like maybe we're going through the motions of family dinners, holidays,
right?
But we're not really present,
right?
Not really connecting.
Yeah, not really connecting on a deeper level.
Yeah. Or maybe we're so focused on providing material things for our families that we neglect those emotional needs.
It's about quality time, not just quantity time.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's about recognizing that even our closest relationships, they require effort, attention. You can't just assume they'll thrive on autopilot.
Right. And I think Waleed would argue that those close relationships...
Yeah, they're the foundation.
Yeah, they're the foundation for a healthy society.
For a healthy society. If we can cultivate kindness and compassion within our families and communities, it ripples outward.
Yeah, right.
Creating a more just... and benevolent world.
Okay, so those are the 3 stages of good. But what about the flip side? How do we actively avoid those stages of evil that Waleed outlines? He doesn't really offer
not a
step-by-step guide there.
No, but I think we can kind of infer some strategies.
Okay.
Based on his overall framework, right?
Right.
Remember, he sees evil as this departure from God's limits.
Right.
This crossing of boundaries. So one way to avoid those stages of evil is to cultivate a strong moral compass.
Okay, a strong moral compass.
To develop a deep understanding of right and wrong, and to commit ourselves to living in alignment with those with those principles.
That makes sense, but how do we actually develop that moral compass? It's not like we're born with it.
Right. We're not. It's something we cultivate over time,
Wow.
through education, reflection, experience. It's about engaging with our faith, our belief system, studying ethical principles, learning from the wisdom of those who've come before us.
Right.
And it's about paying attention to those inner nudges, those moments when we sense that something isn't quite right, even if we can't articulate exactly why.
So it's an ongoing process of learning, listening, and kind of refining our understanding of
what it means.
Yeah, what it means to live a good life.
To live a good life, yeah.
And being honest with ourselves.
Being honest.
About those areas where we might be tempted to stray.
Yeah, absolutely. Our values.
Yeah.
And I think Willie would emphasize the importance of seeking guidance.
Okay.
From a higher power, however we understand that.
Right.
Whether it's through prayer, meditation, studying sacred texts, connecting with a source of wisdom and strength beyond ourselves.
Yeah.
That can help us stay grounded, and make choices that are aligned with our highest aspirations.
It's like tapping into that inner compass that points us towards true north,
Yeah.
Even when the world around us feels chaotic and confusing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And it reminds me of something you said earlier. We don't have to do this alone.
Right.
We have our families, our communities,
Our faith traditions.
Yeah, their faith traditions.
And to support us.
To support us.
Yeah.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
We're not meant to navigate these complex questions in isolation.
Right.
We need each other's support, wisdom, encouragement.
Yeah.
To stay on this path towards good.
Right.
And we need to create spaces, where we can have these honest conversations.
Right.
About these challenges.
Yeah.
Where we can share our struggles.
Yeah.
And learn from each other's experiences.
This whole conversation it's really gotten me thinking about the power of individual choices. Like maybe there's no grand solution to this problem of evil, but each of us in our own small way can choose to embody those values of justice, benevolence, and kindness.
And maybe, just maybe, those individual choices multiplied across millions of lives can start to tip the scales towards a more just
and compassionate world.
I love that thought.
Yeah.
It's not about waiting for some external force to fix everything.
Right.
It's about recognizing
about the power.
A power that we each have.
Yeah.
To make a difference.
Right
here, right now.
Right now. And trusting that even those small acts of goodness,
when they're multiplied across countless lives, can create this ripple effect that transforms the world around us.
That's a beautiful and empowering message to end on.
It is.
This deep dive into Dr. Waleed's wisdom of good and evil has given us a lot to reflect on.
It really has. We've explored his framework, considered alternative perspectives, grappled with the challenge of actually putting these ideas into action.
Yeah.
And while there are no easy answers, no simple solutions to this complexity of good and evil.
Yeah.
I think Waleed's work reminds us that we all have a role to play in shaping the world that we want to live in. It's a journey.
It's a journey
of continuous learning, self-reflection, and striving to embody those values that bring us closer to the good.
That's beautifully said.
Thank you. And with that, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thank you all for joining us on this thought-provoking journey.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
And until next time, keep questioning, keep reflecting,
keep searching,
and keep choosing good.
أنا دكتور خالد وليد ربان سفينة النجاة إلى شواطئ بكة القدس. I am Dr. Khaled Waleed, the captain of the ship of salvation to the shores of Baka, Jerusalem.